Hey everybody, today I am going to recondition my Harvest Right oil filter separator. These after time can get all sorts of garbage up here. This, you can see where all the food particulates have been trapped up here, and after a while the joint became loose, and you can just see where I can spin this top. So we're going to clean this apart. We're going to take this apart, clean it up, replace the filter medium down in the lower section. Now when I freeze dry, I have a bunch of these little containers here. I have one container where I put the good oil that is poured off the bottom section, and when I'm pouring it off, I'm being very careful not to pour the water in with it. So actually we can do that right now. So I just finished up a load of peas. So I'm going to take this bottom part off, place it right there, and then I'm going to pour the good oil off the top there. And I'm going to pour this off, but I'm watching very carefully not to pour any of the water into it. So I will actually let these containers sit for a while, because even with the filter medium, sometimes you still get some garbage will fall to the bottom. Now with all this material down here, there's water and all sorts of interesting liquids. I have one container for bad oil. So what I will do is I'll pour all my bad oil that has water and garbage into this container, and then in the top section here I have a bunch of water and food particles and all sorts of garbage in that, and I'll pour that in there as well. I'll let this sit for a couple of days, and I'll pour off the good oil and put the good oil back through here, and then the old garbage I will eventually let it accumulate and put it in the freezer. And what the freezer will do is the freezer will freeze the liquid in the bottom, and I can pour off what oil is in the top back through the filter medium and salvage that oil. And then what's left is a little ice cube of the water, and I just throw that away. Right there is all the water and a lot of the garbage that comes out of your pump. Okay, so we're going to put these to a side. It's good to put down some paper, because this is going to be kind of an oily mess. Okay, the way that Harvest Right assembled this, they used some PVC fittings and then some electrical fittings to a junction box. They have a little electrical washer down there, and what we need to do is first we're going to loosen that and take it apart. This bottom section, if you kind of hold up underneath this ridge, underneath here, you can kind of hold this tight. Like I said, this is really slick because it's very oily. So we're going to take this section off, and this is our filter medium right here. So this is where the joint has become separated itself. Now, up on this top they use an electrical nut to hold the top section on, and down underneath they just basically have a regular, like a hose washer. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to get a socket to remove this nut first, and everything will separate. There's two ways to take this nut off, and unfortunately both of them are not real common tools. One thing you can use one of these really long needle nose pliers that can reach down and grab that and turn it. Another thing you can do is a 1 1/16 socket that will latch onto here, and that will actually loosen this. But like I said, unfortunately not everyone has those tools laying around their house. So that's the little nut that holds everything together. Now Harvest Right, when they first made these, they did put some kind of a sealer silicone here, but after a while it eventually failed. So they have another little electrical box nut right there. So there's two nuts, little PVC nipple, a washer that holds those pieces together. Of course, these also separate. And then you can see the old caulking that I put on here. I'll pull this off and clean that up. Now, what Harvest Right uses for the filter medium is basically batting material that you can find at almost any fabric store. And then down on the bottom, they actually have, you can't see this very well, but this is a coffee filter. And you can see that over time it has trapped food particles and all sorts of garbage that have come out of the oil. So this material is cheap. I would not reuse it again, and although there will be some oil trapped in here, this is something you want to probably toss and not worry about. So I'm going to go ahead and use some Dawn dish liquid. This probably works the best because it breaks up the oil. So I'm going to put all this into a little basin. I'm going to clean all this up, take off the sealer, and then we're going to reassemble this. While you're cleaning your pieces, you want to do this inside a basin. It would be best not to do this in your sink, because the last thing you want to have going down your drain is any type of oil. Even though we're using a dish liquid, a dish detergent that will break down the oil, it'd be safe than sorry. And then, you know, with the oil that's trapped down in here, I would just use paper towels to wipe out all the oil and just put that aside, because any type of oil down a drain is not going to be good for anybody. Before we get back to reassembling our filter unit, I just want to have a little bit of a demonstration on filter medium. Now this is basically a coffee filter with some batting for my new Harvest Right filter, and this weighs 7 grams altogether. Now the material I took out of the old one, this weighs 109 grams. So basically this is telling me that there is 102 grams worth of oil in this filter. So if I squeeze this, you can kind of see how much oil I'm going to be losing. It's not a whole lot, maybe 3 tablespoons. Okay? Many freeze dryers in the beginning started using Brita water pitchers to filter their oil. And so what they'd do, they'd take a toilet paper roll and remove the core, and then this is stuffed into the Brita pitcher. Well, this filter weighs 93 grams. And this is a saturated Brita filter, so to speak, and this weighs 483 grams. So inside this filter is 390 grams of oil. And if I could squeeze all this oil out of the filter, I would have enough oil in here to run my vacuum pump. Both filters will filter out the food particulates and other junk. Neither filter will filter out the water. The water will eventually pass through the filter medium. So I guess my criticism of the Brita filter is that you're just wasting a lot of good oil, where the Harvest Right filter wastes less oil. And one other note to say about oil, this oil right here is Dairyland oil that goes into a milking machine and works just fine in the vacuum pumps. But the thing I don't like about Dairyland is it has a dye in it, kind of a dark green dye, versus the oil I like best is called Black Gold. And with Black Gold, that is a clear oil, and as it degrades, I can see that the Black Gold is actually going from a clear to a kind of a cloudy yellow color, where with the dairy brand oil, when it degrades, it just doesn't change color. So I don't know when the Dairyland oil is starting to break down versus the Black Gold oil. So I actually prefer Black Gold oil. Everything is dry, everything is clean, it's time to reassemble. So this is the container that holds the filter medium. We take our coffee filter, we're going to put that down in the bottom, and then we're going to take our batting material, and that will go down into the coffee filter. Now you want to make like a little nest inside, because there's a little PVC fitting that will fit right in the center. So you just want to tuck the batting material around that fitting, and what this PVC fitting does, it helps, instead of the oil coming directly down into the filter, it goes down and kind of spreads the oil out to be filtered. We're going to put that aside. The next step is you want to assemble your lids together. So I'm going to take a little bit of silicone and I'm going to put it on the smaller lid. The smaller lid goes inside the bigger lid. Just going to line up those two holes. We take the nipple with the washer that goes through, and then the lock nut, the screws on right there. And go ahead and tighten this up. If you over tighten it, it'll just push this washer farther back. But this will allow you to get pretty tight to hold that into place. Okay, now we're going to put some silicone around here. And you can see where the old silicone was on my old one. I wish I would have used clear silicone instead of white silicone, but oh well. So now the threaded nipple will go through the bottom and up into the chamber of that container. Now if you have small enough hands, you can reach in and put the lock nut on this side. Now we're not going to tighten this too tight right now. We're going to come back to this so we can line this up a little bit better. Okay. So now we're going to take our filter container, screw it up into there, just nice and snug, and then this is going to go into this container. Now what we want to do before we tighten the nut in here, we want to rotate this just so it lines up with the one on the bottom, so it looks nice. Once that is lined up, then you can reach in here with your hand, your tool, or whatever you might have, and tighten this one up. so. So now that is back to normal and ready to use again. Nice and clean with all the filter medium in place. Now, as a last precaution, what I'm going to do, I'm just going to put just a little bead of silicone over that electrical nut and the base of the jar, just to ensure I have a good seal. Thanks for watching.